figured there were so many matches this weekend that actually didn't matter when it came to the results compared to what happened, because the biggest result of the entire weekend were the wonderful people from Crystal Palace celebrating their first major trophy in the history of their club, which I don't think can be like talked about enough when you have a history like Crystal Palace's. Not just that they've made it to a few major cup finals and come up short. They had multiple times where they made it to Wembley as in the play-in game in the playoff final, and they came up short. Like, this fan base has been taken to the edge of like a euphoric moment, and they were never delivered. Promotion is one thing, but to a supporter of Crystal Palace, winning the FA Cup is ultimately winning the World Cup, the Champions League, and the Premier League in the same season. Because, like, at the highest level, I believe Crystal Palace supporters believe the best they would ever do would be to win the FA Cup. And to do it, and to do it against City, and to do it in that manner and that fashion with this side, I think it's just a special moment. It changed all of what we're going to talk about later when it comes to top five, top eight, who makes like what's important next weekend. But Paul, you, someone who I know loves the FA Cup, what was Saturday and watching that in the moment and the
I
energy
mean,
of
it's
on that
it's
whole
great, man. As somebody who grew up in a sports town whose teams struggled professionally for majority of my life, it's always good to see these clubs that are long-standing tradition inside the English football tier go ahead and do something like win for the first time in 120 years, right? I mean, that's just madness. So it reminds me a little bit of like the Newcastle win, just to see these sort of unbridled joy and stuff. And that's what the game's all about. I thought there was a lot of beautiful moments throughout when they were touching on the history, when they're touching the club, the players involved. I thought the TIFO was one of the coolest things. I don't know if you read that story. I think Mark Wallians, I'm probably butchering the last name, but it's a picture of him holding his two young sons essentially 14 years ago. He passed away. They win it, 14 years later. And that's sort of the brand and image that we see across that crowd. I think it's just kind of the perfect summation of what football is all about. And for those of us who follow this game and love it because of somebody that we hold dear to our heart and our family, I think it's like a really, really awesome tribute to not only that family, but the entire Palace organization there.
Yeah, they always seem to be the type of team, and I know as a Liverpool supporter, they've been like a bugaboo team. They've caused us some heartache, obviously, and back in the first run at the title where we kind of capitulated on their pitch, and then it all went apart after the Gerrard slip. And I think people always would be like, "Well, I can't feel good for Palace." Like, I've never had a ill will towards Palace because they just came and played football and they beat us or tied us on days that we needed to win. Um, all in all, they seem like they do things right. They have a really small ground, but it's always really loud and it's hard to play at, which is because I think their supporters are great. And I think they're probably that. I think people always say there is no such place in all of England as Crystal Palace. Like, it's a mindset. Like, that was the whole mentality. It was just a section of, what is it, South London, and it's
Yeah.
like just this weird little section of, and it's not even its own section. It's just kind of like a group of people, and they're so tribal. And I think they're the London club that nobody remembers is from London.
Yeah.
And I just feel like it's so special for them. I love their uniforms. I love their colors. I mean, you look at this, you can't be upset. Like, you can't be angry. The only thing that I'd be critical about is that two Americans got FA Cup medals. And I have trouble with that. And I'm just kidding, because Chris Richards actually played one of the best games he's played for Crystal Palace. And he's been in like his finest form as a professional at Palace. And I give Glasner all the credit for that. I think he has made, I mean, what he's doing with this team. This is Roy Hodgson's team with a couple signings, and he's not even playing the signings. He took Hodgson's guys and turned them into this machine. And, you know, between Sar and Munoz and Will Hughes, you know, you albino little freak, you just get the job done. We don't need to get into Adam Wharton, or we might just like Beetlejuice bring Kazi onto the screen to start talking.
Yeah.
But they're a fun team. You lose Michael Elise, and you take the step forward, even though the league was a little bit troubling. And so I'll flip